In April 2023, James Corden walked onto the stage of The Late Late Show for the final time. The audience gave him a standing ovation, while many celebrities lined up to say goodbye.
I'm James Corden for the last time. This is The Late Late Show. Roll the tape.
He was in tears, calling his 8 years in America the adventure of a lifetime.
Moving here to America 8 years ago, it was a huge leap for me, my family.
But if you opened Twitter that same night, you'd see something completely different. Many online users celebrating like crazy. The same man that Hollywood praised, the internet was mocking. Memes flooded timelines. Trending hashtags called it the end of an era, finally. And every clip of his farewell was drowned out by comments saying, "Good riddance." It was one of the strangest cultural moments in recent memory. A celebrity being publicly celebrated and cancelled at the same time. So, how did the charming British comedian who once sang with Adele become the internet's favorite target? Now let's rewind, because James Corden wasn't always hated. In fact, he was once genuinely beloved. Back in 2012, Corden won a Tony Award for One Man, Two Guvnors on Broadway. Critics called him a revelation. He was charming, talented, and had this everyman quality that made him feel accessible. Not like a Hollywood royalty, but he was a British comedian who'd worked his way up. So when CBS announced in 2015 that he'd be taking over The Late Late Show,
however shocked people at home are going to be by the fact that I've been chosen to host this show, none of them will be as shocked as I am.
people were curious. Americans barely knew who he was, but CBS was betting big. And at first, it paid off. Carpool Karaoke exploded. That Adele episode alone has over 260 million views. Suddenly, James Corden wasn't just a talk show host. He was a viral phenomenon. Celebrities wanted to be in his car. The same format was copied worldwide, and he seemed like the nice guy who made Hollywood feel fun again. But somewhere between the carpool sessions and the celebrity interviews, something shifted. The cracks started to show. And once people started looking closer, they couldn't unsee what they found. The first real wave of backlash came from his own industry, other comedians and actors. In 2019, a Reddit thread titled, "Who's the biggest jerk celebrity you've met?" went viral. James Corden's name came up repeatedly. Staff members from various shows shared anonymous stories about dismissive behavior, rudeness to crew members, and an obsession with being the center of attention. Then came the AMA incident. Corden did a Reddit Ask Me Anything, and it became a disaster. People weren't asking about his favorite moments, but why he was so mean to service workers, why he allegedly screamed at staff, why people who'd worked with him had nothing good to say. But the real breaking point was in October 2022. Keith McNally, owner of the prestigious New York restaurant Balthazar, posted on Instagram that Corden was the most abusive customer his staff had ever dealt with. He detailed 2 separate incidents, one where Corden allegedly found a hair in his food and became nasty to the server, and another where he berated staff over an egg yolk mix-up in his wife's omelet, calling the server's work absolutely ridiculous. McNally actually banned Corden from the restaurant. Think about that. A celebrity so rude that a high-end New York restaurant owner risked the publicity to call him out publicly. Corden apologized on his show, calling it a dumb comment made in the heat of the moment. But the damage was done.
Rude comment, and it was wrong. It was an unnecessary comment. It was ungracious to the server. The third time, in the heat of the moment, I made a sarcastic, rude comment, right, about cooking it myself, and it is a comment I deeply regret.
Because this wasn't an isolated story anymore. It was a pattern. Once the floodgates opened, everything became fair game. People started dissecting his work. Critics pointed out that Carpool Karaoke, his biggest success, wasn't even his idea. It was created by the British show Gavin and Stacey, which Corden had starred in. Even then, videos surfaced showing that he wasn't actually driving during Carpool Karaoke segments, and the car was being towed. It felt emblematic of something larger, the performance of authenticity. Then there was his acting. If you remember Cats, Corden played Bustopher Jones, and the internet absolutely savaged him for it. But it wasn't just Cats. People started compiling lists of his film roles. The Prom, Peter Rabbit, Emoji Movie, and they were asking the same question. Why does he keep getting cast in everything? The answer seemed obvious to critics. Hollywood nepotism and connections. not the talent. He'd become the symbol of mediocre men failing upward. Even his talk show segments became targets. People accused him of stealing jokes, of being a mean interviewer disguised as a friendly one, of making everything about himself, even when interviewing actual stars. Compilation videos with titles like James Corden Humiliation Moments racked up millions of views. And here's why it gets interesting. Because the hatred for James Corden isn't really about James Corden anymore, but more about what he represents. He's become a symbol for a type of celebrity culture people are exhausted by. The forced relatability, the constant need to go viral, the sense that someone is famous simply for being famous rather than for any particular talent or authenticity. There's also a class element. Corden came from working-class Britain, found success, and then, according to critics, became exactly the kind of entitled celebrity he once wouldn't have been allowed near. It feels like a betrayal of his roots. And let's be honest, there's something satisfying about watching someone who seemed untouchable get humbled. Schadenfreude is a powerful drug. When someone appears to have everything, fame, wealth, connections, and then gets exposed as rude or difficult, it confirms something we want to believe, that success doesn't equal virtue. The internet loves a villain, especially one who doesn't fit the traditional mold. Corden isn't a bad boy or a controversial artist. He's just, allegedly, unpleasant. And somehow that feels more offensive. We can forgive genius or rebellion, but rudeness to waiters? That's unforgivable. When Corden announced he was leaving The Late Late Show in 2023, the reaction was split. CBS gave him a warm send-off. Celebrities appeared for his final episodes. He cried talking about his time in America. There were highlight reels, heartfelt speeches, and emotional goodbyes from co-stars and crew members who had worked beside him for nearly a decade. It felt like the end of a chapter in late-night television, but outside the studio walls, the narrative wasn't as kind. Online, people questioned whether the tears were genuine or just another performance, a fitting finale for someone accused of always acting. And the memes were merciless. James Corden leaving is the best thing to happen in 2023 trended on Twitter. People made joke countdowns. The celebration felt disproportionate, and that's kind of the point. Since returning to Britain, Corden's kept a lower profile. He's done some UK television, worked on a few projects, but nothing close to his American fame. And maybe that's for the best, because in the court of public opinion, he'd already been tried and sentenced. The question is, did he deserve it? Were the stories true, exaggerated, or somewhere in between? We'll probably never know the full truth, but perception became reality. And in the age of social media, that's all that matters. So why does everyone love to hate James Corden? Because he's the perfect storm. Successful enough to resent, allegedly rude enough to justify it, and visible enough that dunking on him became a shared cultural experience. He's not a monster, but he proved that he's fake. James Corden became the acceptable target, the person that it was safe and fun to criticize. And once the internet decides you're that person, there's no coming back. Maybe the real lesson is about James Corden himself, and what fame does to people who chase it too long. He started as the outsider everyone rooted for, the underdog who made Hollywood feel approachable. But somewhere along the way, the charm became a brand, and the humility turned into performance. Fame didn't just elevate him, it consumed him, molding him into the very kind of celebrity he once seemed different from. And in the end, that transformation cost him the one thing his career was built on: being liked. James Corden became the celebrity everyone hates because someone had to be. And once you're cast in that role, you're stuck with it forever.